Welcome to Student Voices, a mini-series sponsored by the Supply Chain Revolution podcast, where we host innovators, students, founders that are doing amazing things at the intersection of supply chain sustainability and innovation. Today, we're hosting Bella Chavez, who represents the next generation of supply chain leadership and also learning from the field through multiple areas and entry points. One, through customer-facing retail execution at Nestlé. Two, cross-disciplinary problem solving at the Macmillan Innovation Studio. And last but not least, peer leadership through WISE, one of our fantastic new community partners, focusing on professional development for women in supply chain. So welcome, Bella. It's so fantastic to host you. And why don't we kick off and just share a little bit about yourself with people who are watching?
Yes. So I'm originally born and raised in Chicago, and then I lived in Toronto for a little bit, then to Houston, Texas, and now I'm here at University of Arkansas. And I'm studying supply chain management with a minor in business analytics. And I'm currently a junior, so I'm graduating in about a year from now.
All right, let's jump right into the very first question. So you've moved around a lot. I know you have a lot of diverse work experience, even as a junior in undergrad. You became curious about logistics very early and then found your way into supply chain. Just curious, what pulled you into the field?
So my story kind of goes when I first moved to Canada, Toronto, I think the first thing I noticed was just how different packaging is. For instance, when I first moved, they packaged their milk in bags. And so that was super bizarre to me. And while I was very young, I also frequently visited Mexico. And so I think for sure growing up definitely influenced my decision to do supply chain. But at the time I was young, probably didn't know the word supply chain at all. And so going to the University of Arkansas, I knew the supply chain program was very good. And it was almost a gut feeling, if I'm being honest, that drawed me to this field. And I'm the type of person, I'm like, I need to try something out first before I commit to it, or just with anything in life. I feel like most people are like that. And so it was within the first week of my intro to supply chain class, actually with Dr. Stephanie Thomas. And I knew 100% that this field was for me. And throughout the years of my college experience, I've just gotten to love supply chain even more and more.
That's amazing. And you mentioned you have a minor in data analytics, or is it business analytics?
Business analytics, but pretty much very similar.
Yeah, I find that pairing is incredible. Just talking with other students and other grad students even, it's always the data analytics and then the sustainability and then just the general innovation IT pairing with supply chain that seems to do really, really well right now. So if I could just double click on what you shared, you talked a little bit about, you lived internationally, you have some early experiences that made you sense that supply chain might have been the right fit for you. Can you tell us about mentors or other influences that maybe shaped your journey into supply chain before we get into your experience?
I definitely think my first mentors, specifically in supply chain and the people I looked up to, came from the University of Arkansas. And so just being around more faculty who were in supply chain has made me want to do supply chain even more. Dr. Stephanie Thomas is for sure one of those people who influenced my decision into going into supply chain, as well as just being involved on campus and getting to know different supply chain professionals, going to the career fair. I remember I went to the career fair freshman year, and that also just helped confirmed that supply chain was the route for me.
And so you've also had some internships and projects that catalyze practical learning in Costa Rica with Macmillan and with Nestle. And what have some of those hands-on experiences taught you that maybe the classroom alone couldn't have?
So I'm a big fan of any hands-on experience I can get. Everyone learns differently, but for me, it's hands-on.
Take your
Honestly,
time.
I think for me, I really don't learn that much from the classroom. I've had professors who I have learned from, but most of what I've learned has been on site, to be truthful, especially in
Exactly.
supply chain. I would say most of my learnings have been outside the classroom. And so with people I talk to, especially younger undergrads, I'm constantly encouraging, whether that's case competitions, internships, shadow days with different companies. I think there's more than one way to get outside of classroom experience, excluding internships and all of that throughout the school year you can also do.
Yeah, and the internships that you've had, have they been paid or are they gratis?
Internships nowadays, I know way back when, like a lot of internships weren't paid, but especially in supply chain, like they're mostly paid for. When I'm talking about shadow days at the University of Arkansas, we have shadow days with different companies, like a supply chain shadow day. So there's different companies you can sign up for, and essentially you just got to spend a day with them at their headquarters and in Northwest Arkansas and just learn about the company. So it's more of a one day thing, which I think people are more willing to give up that time rather than a whole 3 months of unpaid work is not common at all, in my opinion, from what I see here.
Yeah. Although a lot of internships are paid, if what you really want is to land the experience, there are tons of alternatives. I mean, you can reach out to people. I host a fellowship. I volunteer for WISE and I have in the past. So it's super insightful. And now let's talk a little bit about WISE. Why was WISE important to you, and what gap do you feel that it fills for students?
So I still remember being a freshman. I'm the oldest in my family. I have two younger siblings. So it was kind of my first time going into college. I really didn't know what to expect. And so when I was a freshman, I joined just about every club you could to try to see which one was the best fit for me and where I thought I would be able to make an impact because I knew I wanted to eventually have a leadership position. And I think it's also really important to have a community, especially in college. Yes, people who are outside your major, but also in that scope of well, and just being able to talk about different journeys, like such as career fair, just the internship application process and getting feedback. Resumes are a huge thing. I think that is one of the things that really helped me out in WISE when I first joined. And so it's a really good balance, and what I always encourage people to do is improving those soft skills and hard skills. And so WISE has helped me both a lot in those two areas.
Wonderful. I love that. I love the community that's been nurtured around WISE. And then obviously, University of Arkansas is one of the top supply chain management programs in the world. So, yeah. All right, so let's double click on what you've learned in your retail supply chain journey, which is
Mhm.
super, super interesting. You've supported Walmart e-commerce, also Nestle. And so how has that changed how you think about retail supply chain?
So definitely, I've been doing a co-op with Nestle this semester, and it's been amazing. I'm working with data every day. So I think as a supply chain major, you definitely are aware how much supply chain affects everything. And maybe people outside of that major, just that scope, don't really realize. And so actually looking and being able to be a part of that and as well as the uprise of like e-commerce too, which is growing and it's not going to stop growing. And so just seeing how different parts of the business affect Nestle, for instance, overall, as well as Walmart. And I think the biggest takeaway that I've had from this specific internship is that cross collaboration is so important, especially between suppliers and the retailers. You have to win by collaborating together. And if Nestle wins, so does Walmart. And if Walmart wins, so does Nestle. And so I think that's been my biggest takeaway from this experience.
Wonderful. So how does it feel to be in this space now, going into your senior year next year, going out into the work world officially?
The first word that came to mind and is a word, honestly, my favorite word would have to be grit. I think that's what I always keep in the back of my mind. Sometimes when I start something new, like obviously I don't have it figured out and it can be frustrating, the learning curve. And that's a lot of supply chain constantly changing. But having a positive outlook and just I think determination is also huge. And that's kind of a big part of me is if I can't figure it out, I will. And so that's been huge and I know will continue to be huge. I'm someone who I never want to stop learning, but obviously learning isn't always easy. So just having a positive outlook and being able to see the end goal and not just the next step is what's helped me out a lot and will continue to help me out.
Yeah, you mentioned grit, resilience, determination, right? But what about technology? Has that helped you be more productive also?
I've been using AI since high school. And so at Nestle, we actually do have a co-pilot. And that's been super helpful because I know a big concern is confidentiality with certain companies. So, for instance, if I'm looking at an Excel spreadsheet, I can make a pivot table. And I also like to use it as like a double checker. So, just to
Mhm.
like check and confirm my findings.
A
So, maybe I
thought
want to
partner.
Exactly. Exactly.
Or double checker, that works too.
Yes. But for outside of the classroom, specifically my role right now, I use it a lot to kind of just have like a summary of findings. Maybe there's like this Excel spreadsheet with like 4,000 rows, and I want to know what are the poor performers across multiple weeks. But I still am in Excel doing a lot of manual pivot tables. And so it hasn't completely eliminated the human aspect of interaction with technology.
So humans still in the loop.
Yep.
And then just to close out our discussion today, what do you hope to carry forward from all these great experiences that you've described as you move into the next stage of your career, maybe even consulting?
hmm I think the people aspect, being able to, and that's what I hear a lot from a lot of leaders is yes, hard skills are important and they will continue to be important. But what's becoming more important, especially with AI, is those soft skills. And how do you interact with different people? Everyone has a different way of how they like to communicate. And so, especially in consulting work, you're working with different clients constantly, different people. They might not always like the consultants, but getting to that same pathway of how do we work best together and the communication aspect, I think is super important. So, being in Costa Rica, obviously, I communicated a different way and just with different people as well. I think it's super important for students to get that interaction with people in industry because how students communicate with each other, how I talk to my friends is not how I talk to my people at work.
Oh, yes. So I can give you an example. I am a huge fan of hiring young people.
hmm
Even if they don't necessarily have the experience, if they have the right attitude and the appetite to learn, I'm all for it.
For
But that
sure.
communication style, I think you learn polish, you learn etiquette, but then you also learn um, negotiation, navigating power relationships, like what's not being said oftentimes, like change management, organizational
hmm
leadership, a lot. I don't like to call them soft skills. I think
hmm
that there's a bit of gender bias that history has written into calling it soft. I think they're core
hmm
skills because if you
hmm
don't have those skills, you don't succeed no matter where you land.
hmm
But it is really fascinating, the language part. Corporate speak even, and
Yes.
what corporate speak have you
Ooh, it's honestly been in a lot of emails. I think for me, corporate speak is learning how to speak in a nice manner without being too direct
Yeah.
and hurting
Yeah,
someone's feelings.
influence. So you're
hmm
describing like how do you influence the right outcome from people who you collaborate with who really may not have zero incentive to give
hmm
you what you want or work with you. And it's challenging, especially at scale. So,
hmm
Bella, this has been an incredible conversation. Any final thoughts for folks watching and listening?
Yeah, I honestly, for specifically undergraduates, get involved. Don't be afraid to fail, fail fast. I think that's huge. Take risk and, you only have 4 years and that's something I've always thought of is try to give it your all. Yes, burnout is real and it's okay to take breaks, but being resilient, I think, and grit helps a lot. And also my biggest takeaway, which I don't think a lot of students are aware of, and I wasn't when entering, is your network is your net worth. And so constantly be networking, constantly be building your network. If you don't know how to use LinkedIn, that's fine. I learned. You can learn too. You can take
Hmm.
that's what I did freshman year is I would take inspo from other students or older students that I knew. And so, yeah, constantly be networking. And another huge thing is being your authentic self, I think is tricky for some people, especially undergrads. Like, how should I act? And so finding that balance between authenticity, but also professionalism.
Yeah, that's tough. When people say bring your whole self to work, I used to say that. I mean, depending on what your whole self is,
Yes. Yes, that is very true.
again, I've led teams for a long time and I've always been a proponent of authenticity. And
Mhm.
there were a couple employees that challenged that really challenged me
Mhm.
with those words. But I was like, bring half yourself to work.
Yourself.
Leave
Maybe not
that
all,
part
but
at home. All right, Bella. And where can folks find you and find more about Wise?
so Wise, we have our Instagram page, which we kind of show a lot that we do. So It's Wise UARC, I believe, or I can send it to you after as well.
Okay, and we'll drop it in the comments for folks to look and follow.
Yes. And then we
And
have
then
our
you?
LinkedIn page as well. And then me, I'm mainly active on LinkedIn. I will be honest. If you message me on LinkedIn, I will respond. I love LinkedIn. So,
Okay.
mhm.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Bella. It's been a pleasure to host you.
Yes, thank you. It's been a pleasure to speak on this, and hopefully I'll see you sometime near in the future.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. Bye.